Hi, everybody. I'm Stan Ponte, and I am so happy today to bring back our conversations, Coffee with Stan. Those of you who are just joining us now on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live, please know that you'll also be able to watch this or share these events in a recorded way. I'd also ask you today to participate with us in one of three ways: either to make a donation to any of the organizations or candidates we're speaking with. No donation is too small, no donation is too large, as long as it's up to the legal limits. But not everyone is going to donate, but everyone can do something. And so many of the people I've been talking to are out knocking on doors, making phone calls. One of the really clean and easy and simple things you can do is, particularly if you're on Facebook Live, you can just share this live stream, which will then reach everyone in your sphere. So we can amplify the conversation and all of us feel as though we're putting our energy in. I also wanted to mention, here we are just in our first episode, 10 o'clock Eastern time on the 22nd. Again, this will be available recorded after as well. I want to mention that today's lineup, you'll be able to return here to Facebook Live or on YouTube Live. At noon, we're going to have Representative Andrea Salinas from Oregon. We'll have Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas at 1 p.m. At 1:30, Chris Pappas from New Hampshire. 2 p.m., congressional candidate Laura Gillen. And at 2:30, Pat Ryan, right here from New York State. So we have an exciting day ahead. I'm really looking forward to taking these conversations out of the yelling, out of trying to grab more clicks. I'd love a lot of clicks. We're going to have a lot of people watching, but you're not going to want to stay with us because we are getting heated. We are just going to be fired up. So let's start out with someone and an organization that has really fired me up. I'd like to welcome Sam Drzymala. Sam and I had an extraordinary conversation about his organization, which is focused on bringing gamers and people who are participating in platforms in our digital world, in particular young people. We'll find out more about those demographics in a minute. But what Sam is really doing is saying our world is changing and we have to find our democracy where our democracy is, not necessarily where it used to be. So I am so excited to introduce our first guest on Coffee with Stan, Sam. Hi there, Sam. How are you?
Hey, Stan. Hey, everyone. And it's really, really beautiful to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Stan. And so my name is Sam. I work in political media. I got my start on the 2008 Obama campaign. I worked for several U.S. senators, most recently Cory Booker. And this year I've been one of the core organizers of White Dudes for Harris, if any of you have seen some of that work that we've been doing with young men. And I founded Progressive Victory, the organization that we'll be talking about today, in 2022. We help live streaming influencers and their audience members engage in effective politics. And it's very similar to, for those of you who don't know, Twitch and YouTube Live. I mean, some of you are watching on YouTube Live. It's very similar to what you're watching right now, live content on video.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I read in the New York Times that in February, you helped to put together a big event in Cincinnati where you brought people off of their game platforms into the live space. Can you start out by telling us a little bit about that event? And I know you've had a follow-up event just recently in October. So maybe we can just start with the bread and butter of how you invite people to the events and what happens at these events.
Yeah, sure. So though the community is online, we do a lot of in-person events, and they are just a huge amount of fun. We bring our influencers to an important swing area of a swing state, and then young people turn out in the hundreds to meet the media figures that they follow. And the reason why this is so powerful is because of the parasocial relationship. That's the relationship between the influencer, someone like you, Stan, and the audience member, the people watching. And it leads to incredibly high volunteer turnout. These live streamers are the highest paid influencers across all platforms, and it's because they drive a tremendous and unprecedented amount of action. That means in the private sector world, that means moving product sales for paid partnerships. But for us, it means we can get young people to take extremely difficult or time-consuming actions at a ridiculously high conversion rate.
So
And
I know
so
one of the things that you were able to do was do some door knocking. So maybe take us
that's right.
through how that happened, right? From someone's home, go and meet with the influencer, and then you were converting people in live time to actually donate their time. As you
That's
said,
right.
that's a really hard thing to be able to do. Can you tell us how you did it?
Yeah, so we get the live streamers for weeks and maybe even months before the event to promote on stream a sign up form that we can get people to RSVP. And then we have our core group of volunteers that have already come out of these spaces to call through those lists and do recruitment, confirm RSVPs, make sure that they have travel arrangements, make sure that everybody comes in. We have hundreds of people show up. And the thing that's really been astounding to me is how efficient these Canvas events have been in terms of spend. Door knocking in person sometimes gets a bad rap because of its high cost. But the beauty of placing organizing infrastructure online is that we can run a door to door canvas with incredible efficiency. A traditional door knocking program that you'd see that when someone knocks on your door, it usually runs between maybe $5 to $10 per door knock, but we're hovering around $1 per door, which is more than competitive with even the best run digital ads programs out there. And so the lesson for me is that technology sometimes introduces new efficiencies that can give old tactics new life.
I love that, and I hope you don't mind. We're going to keep drilling right into that because
Yeah.
obviously, for those of you who are watching, you'll see that there's the ability to click right through and to make a donation right now for any amount that you're comfortable with. So, literally, let's go with what you just said. If it's costing $5 or $10 for a traditional door knock, right, for our campaign, you have gotten this
Mhm.
down by either 10 to 20%, right, depending on whether it's $5 or $10 per. If you're getting down to $1 per. So, what is it about your use of social media and your access to this platform that is making it so efficient?
Well, so we have two components to our program. One is a group of people who are truly dedicated, who are canvassing full time in the most important swing states in the country, and we pay them a small stipend. But because they are doing all of the organizing work and they're distributed across the country, we're able to get their costs down pretty far. And they're extremely dedicated. Like I've never met a more dedicated group of people, but also because all of the big events that we want to like bring in, helicopter in all these other people who aren't maybe as committed as folks who are doing it full time, but want to take a weekend to do something. These folks who are doing it full time serve as the core team and the basis for that larger event when we bring people in and make it easy to organize. So it the base of this, the foundation is strong enough that it supports this large pyramid and creates efficiencies through the entire process. But all of those volunteers, except for the ones who are doing door knocking on the ground every single day full time, they're all just distributed across the country and living their lives online. And so the cost of overhead to get those people to the right location is extremely low when compared with when compared with a traditional either paid canvas or door knocking program or volunteer door knocking program. And we can incorporate the same level of organization, sort of national top down level strategic organization that you would with a traditional program, while also offloading a lot of the costs of running it as a top-down organization and leaving it out to a lot of the volunteers to be self-organizing and using the influencer relationships with their volunteer followers to be the magnet that draws them in.
Can you tell us a little bit about the who? Who are the people that, I think maybe I might have my own idea of who is gaming or who is going to be attracted to go meet an influencer. Can you tell us a little bit about this? In my own mind, I know I've been using words like young. I've been using words
Yeah.
like, excited, maybe even people who have not been so involved politically in the past. Am I painting the right kind of a picture? And if
Yeah.
so or not, can you add to it or make it even a sharper picture? Who are you bringing together? Because I've had my door knocked on before over many years, And in some ways, it almost is always the same kind of person, right? And usually someone highly politically active that has done it many times before, and you almost feel like you're part of a machine in that moment. Oh, here's this door knocking going on. My sense is what you're doing is that the person that opens the door sees someone who is what?
Yeah, so it's a young person. You're right. The median age in our community is 24, and
Okay,
it's around 60% identified as men, which
okay.
I think is astounding. It's impactful to me, given that I think you've probably seen a lot of media stories recently about how the Democratic Party is struggling with men. But this is a group of people who are dedicated. They're dedicated to the Republic and to the Constitution. They're in this for the mission of defining democracy for their generation, and it's and I would describe them as the most dedicated voters of their generation, the army of volunteers that we need to win elections. It's been the most fun part about this for me is getting to meet all these people. And they are the talent of pipeline that we need, the talent pipeline of the party that we need right now. I have talked to so many of my colleagues
Yep.
running other organizations linked to the Democratic Party who are desperate to recruit young people and can't find them because Gen Z is not it. They're not answering their texts. They're not answering their emails. They've got their ad blockers on. How do we reach them, right? Well, they're not looking, nobody's looking in the right place. And it's been such a pleasure to train all these young people to come into our community and teach them how to do effective politics and then feed them into the organizations all across the Democratic Party to do the jobs we need.
This
These
is
kids are
such
just,
sorry to interrupt you. It's such
that's good.
music to my ears, and I know to everyone that will be listening to what you're talking about. Being able to get young people, when you say that age of 24, that is not what we've thought about as politically active potentially over the past maybe couple of decades. But it's interesting, I think, as we're talking together live, if you move back to maybe the 60s and 70s, right? The political movements were the young people, right? That age of 24 would have been where it was at. And it kind of skewed, I think, in some ways, because those 24-year-olds, I would have been one of them, right? At that time turned into the 50 and 60 and 70-year-olds who were still politically active. But that political activism was born in the late 60s and early 70s. So I think what I'm hearing from you is that the youth in our country have been called up again. They are
Yes.
activated again. And what I'm hearing in particular about your organization is that you have gone and met them where they are, found them, and found ways to make it possible for them to volunteer, not necessarily in traditional places, which is maybe why some other organizations have had a hard time finding that same demographic. So, can you
Yeah.
give me an example, or can you think of someone that if we were to, have a follow-up conversation, you were to say, "Hey, Mike or Sarah, can you come and talk to Stan and tell Stan and the people who are watching here what your experience was like?" Can you give me a personal story of one of the people that you've interacted with and brought on the journey with you?
Yeah, I mean, I work with them every day, so there are like dozens of them. I mean, hundreds that I am in the community with all the time, and it's each and every one is like they're like adorable. They want to do this because they want to see democracy survive. They know how important this moment is. One that comes to mind, especially though, his name is Sam Loud. He got involved with as a volunteer back in 2022 in the midterms when we first started, and he canvassed in Wisconsin through our midterm program all summer and fall. And then the next year in 2023, he got hired as an organizer by Ben Wickler's Wisconsin Democratic Party. And now he's working there to elect Kamala Harris. So it's been a lot of fun to watch him and his career blossom. And there are dozens of stories just like that already. And I know there are going to be, hundreds more after this election as people get into start building their own careers and getting into the party.
Wow. It is so amazing that you figured out how to make this funnel that has been so elusive to other people. Can you talk a little bit more about how you get someone from that very first moment? What's some of the messaging that you use when you're reaching out to a gamer on social media or through the platforms that you talked about
Yeah.
that are the platforms that they're engaged in? What are you saying? What's the message that you're starting with?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's really important to understand the context that we're in right now, and it's a shared context, right? Like, so the people who are watching this right now, they may not be young people, but we're all in the same media environment. So, like, think about the last 20 years of media and how it's felt to you, Stan. And then remember how these kids are in their 20s. So that's all that today's young people have ever experienced. They've been surrounded by a media culture that's promoting doom, cynicism, and inevitable institutional collapse for basically as long as they've been alive. So I have to tell them to believe in their own power. Like, none of this is inevitable. None of it, not even the slightest, right? All it takes is a critical mass of people, not even a majority, just a critical mass, right? Stepping forward generation upon generation. You're talking about how your generation did that. That's this generation is doing this now. Stepping forward to take responsibility as stewards of the republic and speaking with one voice for their generation. So I'm here to tell you, Stan, and everyone watching, that this rebirth is already underway. It may not be apparent to many people yet because it's still a seed that's beginning to grow. But I see it every day, and you can come check out our work. If you want to learn how to use Discord, anybody who's watching, I give you a personal tour. You can check out what's happening in our community, and we appreciate any donations you're able to make to support the young people's work at progress.win/donate.
Great. So I think we've got a link up where people can very easily go in. Whenever I give money, I always love to understand what the measurable is. So I'm going to give you the one that I took away. Maybe you can add a second if something pops into your mind. So we're going to go back to that $1 per door knock. So
Yes.
if someone viewing right now was to give $25, $50, $100, $1,000, that is that many door knocks, each dollar a door knock, so $1 a door knock. Is there
Yes, and I'll
anything
go. I'll
else?
go one further.
What?
I'll
Go
go one
ahead. Tell
further.
me. Tell me.
Okay, so according to research, there are research that's done on political action by organizations such as the Analyst Institute, and what they've found is that for on average across programs, for every 7 door knocks that happen, there's one vote that's driven into the polls. So if we're doing if we're so you can make a calculation for every $25 you give. Let's say that's 3.5 votes that we're talking
Okay.
about pulling in an important swing area, an
Yep.
important swing state where the battle is being waged. In these states, like given how close the polls are, it could be determined by like a few hundred votes or 1,000 votes in some of these places. So it's extremely effective spend, especially late in the election cycle when all the ad inventory is already bought up and there's no place to put your money. If you're thinking, wow, what can I do right now in this election to make a difference, given that all the ad programs are already established and there's no place left to put an ad, getting a young person out to knock on a door of another young person is incredibly effective. So yes, progress.win/donate, $1 per door knock. Thank you for that prompt.
I absolutely love that, and I love the conversion of the dollar per vote. This conversation for me, and I hope for everyone listening in and watching either now or later tonight or tomorrow morning or whenever they can join us, I'm coming away with two things, and they're both because of you. So let me just say to you as a human being and as an individual putting their heart and their energy out there, you are bringing a kind of intelligence to this work, but the intelligence is then matched with positivity and hope. And that hope comes through from you, Sam. It's no question to me that you're a leader for this organization and the others that you mentioned at the top of the hour. I think that White Dudes for Harris has certainly gotten a lot of traction and
Yeah.
been out there heavily. But from one citizen to another, and on behalf of everyone who will meet you through the Coffee with Stan platform, let me say not just thank you for joining us, but let me say thank you for all of the work that you're doing.
That's really, really kind hear and extremely validating. I try to bring a positivity to this because it's the only thing that's going to get us out of the mess that we're in, and it's really good to see that matched in you, Stan, bringing people here together and at this really important moment around really constructive ways that people can engage in the elections in a positive way. So thank you for the opportunity to reach all these folks.
We are fired up and ready to go, Sam. Fired up and ready to go. Thank you, Sam, so much for joining us. And everyone, please consider clicking through and making a donation. We'll see you soon, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.